I had to talk about a story that's very, very important. And albeit indirectly, it involves Caitlin Clark.
What if the fate of an entire professional league, its billion-dollar ceiling, and the livelihoods of hundreds of athletes rested on the choice of one 22-year-old? And the person who pulled the curtain back wasn't an insider but the most outspoken voice in sports media. Stephen A. Smith connected the dots, and his take on Caitlin Clark's bold power move points to something massive. A single arrival that may have stabilized the WNBA's 2026 season before tip-off. This goes beyond basketball. It's a high-stakes collision of influence, revenue, and a looming problem everyone could see but few openly addressed. A quiet financial pressure had been building, threatening to keep the league stuck in neutral, and then one player didn't just create buzz. She shifted the entire conversation, sending shockwaves through executives, networks, and sponsors alike. For years, the WNBA fought for visibility with elite talent, Olympic gold medalists, and unforgettable performances. Yet the same debates persisted. Modest viewership, smaller paychecks compared to the men's game, and a constant battle for attention. The league wasn't collapsing, but it wasn't accelerating either. It was holding ground instead of breaking through. Even as legends built iconic careers and elevated the level of play, the cultural breakthrough that drives massive financial growth never fully arrived, with regular season audiences often hovering below 500,000. Solid, but not transformative. And behind the scenes, the pressure kept mounting, as if a financial countdown had already begun. The league's media rights deal, the financial engine of any modern sports property, was widely viewed as undervalued, trapping the WNBA in a brutal cycle. It needed wider exposure to justify a richer contract, yet it needed the revenue from that contract to fund the marketing and production that could deliver that exposure. With the agreement set to expire after 2025, the urgency intensified. The league didn't just need another star, it needed a cultural jolt powerful enough to reset the entire conversation. No one expected that spark to arrive in the form of Caitlin Clark, and no one anticipated the storm that would follow. This wasn't a routine number one pick, this was a phenomenon forged at the University of Iowa, where she became a household name who transcended women's basketball and even sports itself, demolishing records with effortless range, logo threes, and daring passes that felt almost unreal. But her true leverage wasn't just highlight plays. It was the staggering numbers that captured executives' attention. The 2024 NCAA Women's Championship featuring Clark drew an astonishing 18.7 million viewers, outpacing World Series games and topping every NBA Finals broadcast that year, transforming one matchup into a nationwide cultural moment and making women's college basketball must-watch television. When she declared for the WNBA draft, it wasn't simply a career step, it was a seismic shift. The Indiana Fever instantly became the league's hottest ticket. Her jersey vanished within hours, and the WNBA suddenly dominated headlines across ESPN. The long-awaited catalyst had arrived, but stepping into the professional stage meant entering a far more intense arena, where expectations were higher, scrutiny was louder, and every move carried enormous stakes. The welcome, however, was anything but warm, and the tension was impossible to ignore. Instead of a red carpet debut, Caitlin Clark stepped into a league that greeted her with a harsh, physical reality check, and the narrative quickly shifted from her brilliance to the level of aggression surrounding her. At first it looked like standard initiation, hard screens, extra contact, subtle bumps, but the intensity kept climbing, and public comments from veterans about a rude awakening only fueled the perception that something deeper was unfolding. To many viewers, it didn't feel routine, it felt deliberate. The flashpoint came against the Chicago Sky, when a flagrant foul from Chendi Carter, a blindside hip check with the ball out of play, sent Clark to the floor and instantly exploded across social media. The clip looked less like competition and more like a calculated message, igniting a debate that stretched far beyond basketball. Was this old guard hazing, or were players undermining the very figure drawing unprecedented attention and revenue? The conversation spiraled into accusations of jealousy, resentment, and deeper tensions, with commentators warning the league risked turning its biggest opportunity into a public relations disaster. Momentum started to fracture, and the storyline shifted from growth to internal conflict, until the loudest voice in sports media stepped in. Stephen A. Smith, the outspoken face of First Take on ESPN, unleashed a relentless critique, blasting players in the league for what he framed as short-sighted behavior, arguing that targeting the sport's biggest draw wasn't toughness, it was self-sabotage, and his message came through loud, direct, and impossible to ignore. "How could you be this foolish?" was the core of the argument, as Stephen A. Smith blasted the idea that targeting Caitlin Clark made any sense, calling it the ultimate form of professional self-sabotage. In his view, Clark wasn't just another rookie. She was the catalyst capable of lifting salaries, accelerating long-awaited travel upgrades, and pushing the league onto a global stage it had chased for years. Meaning every unnecessary hit wasn't toughness, it was damage to their own financial future. He argued that the resentment wasn't only about skill but about the spotlight she commanded, the mainstream appeal drawing in new audiences the league had struggled to reach, and he warned they were squandering a rare opportunity at the most critical moment. The reason was bigger than headlines. The WNBA's media rights package, bundled alongside the NBA, reportedly brings in about $60 million annually. Solid, but modest compared to other leagues and a major factor behind long-standing salary limitations. With that deal expiring after 2025, negotiations for the next contract, one that will shape the league beginning in 2026, are happening right as Clark drives sold-out arenas and surging ratings. Her arrival didn't just add excitement. It shifted leverage. Without her, the league might have aimed for a modest bump, but with the so-called Clark effect, networks aren't simply evaluating the WNBA, they're competing for the draw she creates, with some broadcasts seeing dramatic spikes in viewership. Suddenly, the league holds a far stronger bargaining position, and the timing of her entry looks less like coincidence and more like the perfect moment to reset the entire financial trajectory. They can now sit across from giants like the Walt Disney Company, NBC Universal, or Amazon and present hard evidence. A superstar who delivers audiences that rival long-established men's properties. Analysts have begun projecting a future rights package potentially reaching $250 million annually or more, meaning one perfectly timed leap to the pros injected enormous value into the league and stabilized the 2026 season and beyond. That new revenue would reshape everything. Higher salaries, upgraded facilities, expanded marketing, and the long-requested charter flights already fast-tracked under the surge in attention, locking in stability for years. But another theory emerged. What if the on-court tension unintentionally became the most powerful promotion imaginable? Before the viral foul involving Chendi Carter, discussion centered on Caitlin Clark's transition and statistics. Afterward, it exploded into a national debate that reached far beyond sports media. Casual viewers tuned in to see what would happen next, rivalries intensified, especially with Angel Reese, and every hard play became viral fuel, turning games into must-watch events. Whether accidental or not, the drama transformed the league into compelling television, and engagement surged. The shift is visible in real time. The Indiana Fever now draws sold-out crowds, teams relocate matchups to larger arenas, ticket demand spikes, and a long-debated charter flight plan suddenly materialized. Merchandise demand surged as well, while the spotlight expanded interest in stars like Aya Wilson, Brianna Stewart, and Eriko Gunbowl, lifting viewership across networks including ABC and ESPN. The result is unmistakable. The controversy that seemed threatening only intensified momentum, proving that one electrifying figure can redefine an entire league while the business engine behind her keeps accelerating. Stephen A. Smith used his platform to argue that Caitlin Clark wasn't just another rookie but the catalyst for the league's financial future, and his point went beyond television theatrics. It reflected a clear business reality. Her most impactful move wasn't simply turning pro, it was arriving at the exact moment media rights negotiations could redefine the entire economic structure of the WNBA, placing her at the center of a transformation that could secure long-term stability beginning in 2026. The drama, hard fouls, and non-stop debate only amplified the spectacle, turning her into an unavoidable headline and pushing the league into broader cultural relevance. Instead of merely gaining a star, the WNBA found itself in the middle of a full-scale shift driven by a 22-year-old from Iowa whose range and visibility changed expectations overnight. Yet the situation raises a deeper question. Now that the league has a generational draw, can it shield that momentum from the tension and resistance that success often brings? And what does it mean when the trajectory of an entire league leans so heavily on one phenomenon? Her impact appears to stabilize the future, but it also creates a new dependency, where audience growth, sponsorship interest, and broadcast leverage increasingly orbit a single name. The broader story circles back to the same premise. One player arriving at the perfect economic crossroads, turning a quiet financial pressure into a surge of opportunity, and reshaping a league that for years battled for visibility despite elite talent and Hall of Fame careers from icons like Diana Taurasi, Sue Bird, and Candace Parker, whose brilliance elevated competition but never fully triggered the massive cultural breakthrough needed to push viewership and revenue to the next level, leaving the league steady yet restrained, until one arrival shifted the entire trajectory.